today I'm gonna do a brush video, just showing some of my makeup brushes. We're gonna go ahead and get started right away. This one is a 188. See, it's got the little stippling brushes on top. A lot of you might be familiar with the larger one, which looks just like this, and it's called the 187. I have one of those, but not in this bag, I don't believe. This one is mainly used for blush on the apples of the cheeks, but you could also clean this blush out of it and use it to stipple on liquid foundation or cream concealer underneath. I like the way some of these sound on the camera, so I'm going to use them on the camera a little bit. This is my favorite powder brush because it's thin, which makes it good for contouring in the cheek, which you'll probably hear me talk a lot about in this video. It's large and soft bristles, but not all brushes are thinned out like that. That's what makes this one special. I hope these sounds aren't too harsh for you guys. This is the rounder version, which would mainly be used for all over powder or all over bronzer, or can even be used for blush in a pinch. You can use this one for contouring as well, but it's not going to get as sharp of an angle as you would get with the flatter brush. This one is a 225. It's a shadow blender brush. It's good for the crease to go in a windshield wiper motion. This brush is egg-shaped. It allows you to take 2 or more shades of shadow and blend them out to fade into one nice pretty color, almost like a sunset. This is the smaller version of that same brush. This one is a 224 instead of 225. It's also egg-shaped and used for blending right in that crease. It's just as soft. This one is a tiny little brush with stiff little bristles on the end. I like to use this one for shadow or liner underneath, for putting a nice thin line on top. Also, in a pinch, this can be used as a lip liner or a lipstick brush, or even to pat on lip gloss in the center. You just use whatever you have to get by when you're in a pinch. This is just a small, rounded blush brush. This can be used for the contouring we talk about, but it's mainly used just to get the apple of the cheek. I like to take it in my blush and just go in a circular motion on the apple. If I'm already wearing bronzer, I'll blend the two together in a big, more kind of a swooping motion. Okay. This one is a flat liner brush. I like to call this brush a push and wiggle, because you get a little shadow and you either go under or on top, and you're trying to create a line with shadow by pushing and wiggling. So you would take it, push and wiggle it, move it over, push and wiggle it, and when you get done, you'll have a nice shadowy line on top or beneath. And you do that with this brush. You get a really great result when you use this one. I recommend this one. I think that this brush is very highly underrated. This one, it's thick, but it's rounded. It's also flat, kind of like the one that I showed you, but it's a smaller version. This can be used underneath the brow for a highlight, starting right here, all the way there. Or it can be used to pat concealer underneath your eye. Or you can take a highlighter and swirl it on the areas that you like to highlight, right above the lip, down the bridge of the nose, or right at the top of the cheeks. This is a beveled blush brush. The little contour area that I keep talking about. This is perfect for putting bronzer in that little area. Some people like to put cheek color in that area also. And if you prefer to put cheek color in the hollows of your cheeks, this is really good for putting cheek color there. Or you can just keep it on the apples of the cheeks too. Just like that. And all you're gonna do is just do it in circular motions. Just a different tool, but it's the same concept. This is another egg-shaped brush. This is the MAC 217. It can also be used for eyeshadow in the crease, but since the bristles are more concentrated and they're more densely packed, they're able to concentrate the color in one area better. So when you use the first blender brush just to wash the color on, you use this one to put that darker, defining color in the crease. This one is also made of special bristles that will allow you to use cream products like cream eyeshadows, or you can also use this for your cream concealer. This is an excellent concealer brush. As a matter of fact, I use this as a concealer brush most of the time instead of shadow. I have a few of these, and one of them is designated for just concealer, which is a great idea. This is two-sided. This one side has the creamy bristles that we just talked about that can hold concealer. The other side is the powdery side. I like to use one side for one shade of shadow and the other side for another shade. And what I'll do is I'll get that shade on the bottom, flip it, get the other shade in the middle, and then I'll swirl the brush and let the two shades blend. There are several really creative uses for this brush. This is a MAC 234. The best thing to do would be to Google it or go on to Spectra or some kind of forum and talk about the many different ways that you can use your 234. One of the best uses, I think, for using a 234 is to brush your camera with. It's really excellent for camera brushing. I don't know if MAC ever recommends it, but it's one of my favorite uses, personally. This is a really, really good foundation brush. The reason I love this is because it's got nice, long bristles, and it covers a lot of area. And when you're in a hurry, you want to get that foundation down and smoothed out and get it nice and pretty on there as quickly as you can. And this allows you to do that. At the same time, it forms into a point, and that point allows you to get it on really precisely on areas like underneath your eye or at your brow. Areas like that, you really need to be careful that it doesn't smudge or get in the creases, and that's really good with this brush. I don't know if it's gonna make good sounds. We'll try it anyway though, won't we? You guys will have to give me your feedback on this one. I've got more brushes, and if this video works out well, I intend to do another video with the rest of my brushes. So this brush you can only get in a MAC Pro store. It's a good blush brush. I like to use this to blend together my blush and my bronzer. I take it right at the line where my blush meets my bronzer, and I swirl it in little circles. I got this one for my birthday lots of years ago. Like I said, you can't buy it at a regular MAC store. We have a pro store in Dallas, so I'm lucky. This is just a regular blush brush. It's a little fluffier than the one that I showed you earlier. I think we know by now what the blush brushes are used for. So I'll just demonstrate a little bit. You can pretty much use them anywhere on your face. I have a video coming up with feathers. That was a request. Where I rub feathers on my arm. It sounds silly anywhere else except for in ASMR world. Nothing sounds strange to us anymore. This is a MAC 239. It's flat. It's got some shadow on it right now, but it's normally a white flat brush. It's used to pat on solid color. For example, if you're going to go dark in the crease, but you would like white or silver or a light color on the lid, this is what you'd use to put on the light color. You just gently pat it on there. You can also use the really narrow tip to blend out your shadow underneath. You can use it to make a hard crease, which is a very sharp dark color in the crease. It's not really blended out. We call that a hard crease. This has lots of uses. It can also be used for your highlighter color right beneath the brow. This is an angled liner brush. The pointy tip allows you to do really good winged liner, or you can just do liquid liner straight across, or gel liner, or you can even do it underneath. It's also good for shaping your eyebrows. If you want to use eyeshadow, it makes a good mark on your brow, allows you to shape your brows with shadow. Or you can also use it with a cream product or liquid to help you get a nice good brow shape. The thing I get asked about most probably when I'm doing someone's makeup is how do I do my brows? How do I fill out my brows? And if you want to do your brows well, and I've had my brows done by Anastasia, who actually does Kim Kardashian and Oprah. I had to interview her for a beauty blog that I did a long time ago, and she taught me how to perfectly do my brows with one of these brushes, and so I do it exactly the way she taught me. And if it's good enough for the Kardashians, it's good enough for me. She also does every celebrity in Hollywood though. This is a liner brush. You do basically a straight line with it, and it's best for use with liquid or gel liner. I wonder if it makes a sound. Let's see if this makes a good sound at all. I don't even know if you can hear that at all. I'm sure that you guys will let me know in the comments if you can even hear that brush. Here is the Nars version of the MAC 224. the one that I showed you that's egg-shaped that we blend with. This one is the same thing, but it's made by Nars, which is an amazing brand. This one I find to be a tad more pointed than the MAC one, but it blends just the same to me. I can't really tell much of a difference. I don't know what you guys think about it. Maybe I'm being too rough or even too gentle on the camera. You guys will have to let me know. This is a really inexpensive blush brush. Powder brush. I really don't want to say who I think it's made by. I think that it's made by ELF, E-L-F, which is a really inexpensive, almost dollar store brand or a grocery store brand. But I do buy a lot of things by ELF. You can buy lashes for $1 from ELF. I want to say that this brush is made by ELF. I can't see it written on here. No, I'm sorry, it's not. It's Sephora. But ELF, while we're on the subject, is a really inexpensive way to build up your makeup collection. I often tell people to buy one piece at a time or one brush at a time, and ELF is an easy way to start until you can get some better ones. But this is a Sephora brush, very soft bristles, and this one is mainly used for powder only. You can dust bronzer all over with it if you want to, but I wouldn't use it for anything where you have to get in the crease or get it in an exact location, because the bristles are so puffy and fluffy. I would only use it just for powder all over the face. It's very soft. It's a wonderful brush. That's a nice one. This is a pencil brush by MAC. It's really good for taking a hard line of shadow and blending it out and making it kind of smoky. So if you're wondering how to do a smoky eye, this is the way you do a smoky eye. You put some shadow beneath your eye, and you take this and you just back and forth and back and forth, and it won't get all down here because it's got that nice little point to keep all the color concentrated just where you want it to be. You can also do this in the crease to make what we call a hard crease, like we talked about before. This is the one. It's commonly known as a pencil brush. It's a 219 is the number from MAC, but we commonly refer to it as a pencil brush. So if you go into MAC and say, I want a pencil brush, they're going to know exactly what you're talking about if for some reason you forget the number. And this one doesn't say. This is Laura Mercier. Okay. You see that? I'm sorry, there it is. I still don't know if you saw that. It is a lip liner pencil. It's also good for smudging out. I think that is actually the primary use for it. I use it a lot to get a perfect little widow's peak on the lip. It's actually not a widow's peak. What is this called right here? One of you remembers what's this called. But I use it to get the lip gloss in there really perfect. But I believe that it's best used for smoky eye effect. Okay. There are several brushes that we can use for one makeup trick. And so I have a few different brushes that are used to blend in underneath the eye. And that's okay, you just pick whichever one is easier for you, whichever technique works best for you. This one is made by Bare Essentials. Lots of you probably have this brush. It's double-sided. This side is an angled liner brush, like we saw earlier, for doing the winged liner. And this side has that flat, I don't know if you can see, it's almost like a geometric wedge shape for blending out that nice mineral shadow that Bare Minerals makes. The way this brush is angled allows you to get that lighter, almost shiny kind of shadow. And this is just another push and wiggle. The flat liner brush. There's so many brushes that I just grabbed what I saw, and some of these are repeats. This one is made by Sephora. Most of you are familiar with Sephora. This is just a shadow blender, but since it's flat, it can also be used just to pat on that center shadow like we talked about with the 239. I am interested to see if this one makes a sound at all. I don't know about the sounds of the smaller brushes. I'll just have to test them out and see. Okay, this is a flat shader brush. I use this quite often for my highlight. When I want to use a creamy highlight, let's say a really light colored cream concealer, is really good for going right under the brow and making that highlight fade into your shadow. And I do that with this one because it's got that pointed tip. You can also use it for patting on shadow in the center. It's a really nice brush. If you were to say, you know, Krista, what brushes should I buy right off at MAC? This would be in one of the few that I would tell you to go ahead and get when you're first buying some. This came in a MAC kit for Christmas one year. Every year MAC comes out with some Christmas brush kits. They don't have them all year round. You have to buy the brushes one by one the rest of the year. But at Christmas time, you can get them in a kit, and this little blender came in the kit. It's just like the other one that I showed you. Now this actually is by e.l.f. I don't know if you can see it. Probably $1 is what I paid for this. And this is a flat shader. Pat on the center or go underneath for the highlight. I think you're starting to see a pattern here, that so many of these are used for the same function. This is another pointed slanted liner for the winged eyeliner or for underneath. You can also use it to build yourself a nice, sexy eyebrow. This is e.l.f. as well, and I use this for lip liner. This is just a tiny little blush brush, probably came in one of the matte gift sets, but it's worth seeing if it sounds any different. I'm laughing because I hope that I didn't get all the way to the end of this video and then suddenly something's too loud for you. I want you to be able to put my videos on your playlist. That's why I don't want commercials in front of my videos. I don't want any loud noises on my videos. Okay, this one is a really good brush for foundation. It's squared, and I like that once again because it's got that flat point that allows me to pat on concealer and then really swipe it under my eye without worrying about that concealer just making a big old gobby mess. When you've got that nice flat line and you get nice clean lines on your makeup as well. Let's listen to it. And this one is made by Nars. It's that geometric shape again, except this one doesn't have the double side like that Bare Essentials one has. It's just got that flat shape for blending. This one can also be used to blend the creams. Nars has a really excellent line of cream shadows and different cream highlighter products. This one is made by MAC. It's used for separating your eyelashes when you have mascara on and it gets the tiny little clumps in it. This little brush is made to separate those tiny little clumps. I bet if we're lucky, we'll be able to hear a few sounds from this brush because it's got nice little bristles on it. Here's another $2.39, which is the flat shader. This is what it looks like without dark black eyeshadow in it. This is one that Anastasia sent me in the mail as a thank you for our interview. And this has this little brow thingy on one side, and it's got an angled brush on the other. By now I should be able to give you a pop quiz, and you should be able to tell me what this is for. And let's see what I have in here. Oh, this. We all are familiar by now with the Kabuki Brush. We've watched enough videos on YouTube to know what a Kabuki Brush looks like. There was actually a guy named Kabuki. It didn't come from nowhere. And we know by now that the Kabukis also make some really amazing sounds. The Bare Minerals in particular have really coarse bristles. And that's all I have in this bag of goodies, except for some little eyebrow scissors. And if this video is successful, and if you guys like it, I will do another brush video. I'm sure I can collect up quite a few more brushes from around my house and do another one for you guys. I also have an enormous amount of paintbrushes that probably also make some really good sounds. So thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble. I'll see you next time.